To Hugh Hewitt. Hugh is, of course, a radio show host and a veteran of the Reagan administration. And fair warning, he's not only a lawyer, but he has been a law professor, so often uses skilled reasoning, shall we say. Hugh, we can agree on that. I'm so curious to hear your take on this, what we've just witnessed, yes, but this day in politics where you could argue, Hugh, the director of the FBI had the kinetic power in his hands to end Hillary Clinton's campaign today.
You could. He did. I thought Rudy Giuliani's conversation with you earlier, Brian, is going to make news for days and days because he took the bark off of Director Comey. I'll say about the president's speech just now that the only mention of the so-called exoneration of Secretary Clinton is when he said the one thing she'll fess up to is being old-fashioned. Look, she wasn't indicted today, but she was convicted. Director Comey convicted her of lying repeatedly about not receiving or sending classified markings. She was convicted of being vulnerable to hostile agents. Her aides are convicted of actually having been penetrated by hostile agents. And so I think you're going to see Donald Trump and his surrogates and the Republican National Committee play the Comey press conference again and again and again. It was damning. It was absolutely damning of the fact that you can't trust the former First Lady and former Secretary of State. And there's nothing she can really do to change that. He said what he said. So she's not indicted. She's just convicted. So bad day for Hillary. And I'll be interested to see what Donald Trump says about it tonight. I think Nicole Wallace said earlier on the program, in between Hall and Oates updates, that if we stay focused tonight, Donald Trump could score some real points.
And so, Counselor, devil's advocate here, you say she's been convicted, and Donald Trump will say whatever Donald Trump is say at 7 o'clock Eastern time when he gets cranked up in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I just noted they are also having some very rough weather. But how much Velcro does this have in terms of the choice American voters are presumably going to have in November? How much are you going to make this stick day after day after day as a study in comparisons?
Well, I sent a note off to a senior Trump advisor saying, in my opinion, they should select either Tom Cotton or Chris Christie because both are lawyers with the ability to prosecute a case. And Tom, of course, Senator Cotton's, of course, a combat veteran. Chris Christie's prosecuted terrorists. They both can prosecute using James Comey's own words today about hostile agents and about, by the way, if anyone else did this, there would be consequences. This is all on tape, and there was a little speculation earlier between you and Pete Williams. Why would the director do this way? It was so unusual. And I think it's because he wanted it both ways. He wanted to slam Secretary Clinton in a way that would leave a mark that is indelible, and he did. And at the same time, he did not want to politicize the Bureau and give recommendations to the DOJ that would drag on for a long time. Now, Rudy Giuliani, who is probably America's most well-known prosecutor before he became mayor of New York as U.S. Attorney and Associate Attorney General at DOJ, slammed him for his decision and made a legal argument. My political argument is he did enormous damage to Hillary Clinton today on her trustworthy factor, because I think that ad is going to play using his names every single day. And if Donald Trump picks a Cotton or a Christie or anyone who can make a disciplined daily argument about her unfitness for office based upon her reckless disregard for the national security, that's the takeaway, Brian. We know she's lying now. That was confirmed. She'd been lying a lot. She lied again and again and again about not sending or receiving classified markings, and Comey confirmed that today. But the real takeaway is she's with the national security. And well, that is something one cannot have in a president.
Hugh, given your knowledge of the characters here and the law, and I'm looking at this paragraph, Rudy Giuliani says he would have tried to nick her on U.S. Code 793, paragraph F. What do you think Comey's thinking was? Was it, look, I do have the power to end this candidacy today, or look, we're going to run up against some very good lawyers if we do bring this case, and it will only be protracted and awful and we could lose? What was his thinking?
Director Comey is widely admired by everyone in both sides of the aisle, and so I don't profess to know. I know that Rudy sounded shocked. I will say that it reminds me in part of Chief Justice Roberts' decision in the Obamacare case, where He appeared to leave it to the political branches to decide what is more important to them. And so it's being left up to the voters. For him to have indicted or to have recommended indictment would have ended Secretary Clinton's campaign after she had won and after this was well known. And so instead of ending the campaign, he just added damning detail after damning detail, again, especially on national security and lying. And her biggest negative is on those two. And so then they have this big speech in North Carolina, and she doesn't proclaim vindication. The president doesn't proclaim vindication. They want to run away from that. That's the elephant in the room. So I think he may have made a political decision in the best interest of the FBI. The only thing I quarrel with him is his saying no reasonable prosecutor would conclude anything else. In fact, Rudy Giuliani is one hell of a reasonable prosecutor, and I've never been a prosecutor. I've been in the Department of Justice and held all those clearances and done counterintelligence, but not prosecute. I'll trust Rudy Giuliani, and so that, in fact, indicts Director Comey's judgment. A lot of reasonable prosecutors would have indicted, and he gave us the evidence today.
Hugh Hewitt, thank you very much for coming on and for your patience as we waited